Okay, in short, then, the ethos of the game is important. So that means in sport, an example, you run a sport for all, let's say you run a recreational football league or so on. And it's kind of a competitive league, but it's not the main purpose. The main purpose is that people spend some time together, have fun and so on, be physically active. But then you have one person there in the field who is totally competitive. And he destroys the ethos of that practice, the spirit of sport, recreative sport. Maybe some of you have this kind of experiences. He goes to the end. We are all in there for fun, but he destroys that fun. So that is, if you don't have the sense of sport, the feeling for that, then you spoil it. About autonomy, no one is autonomous, so we are all connected in these terms. Of course, we can seek for institutional autonomies and so on, but anyway, we should also take into account always that it's just one planet here. So one way of doing things, thinking about tolerance in sports for all, is that we accept our body as the nature. The nature as the subject and not as an object. We can think of in a holographic terms, like we are organisms. Also, the planet is an organism, the galaxy and so on. They all have some functions in it. Living organism. So it works. If we're all swim in this quantum field or quantum soup, and it's all connected, and it's all informed in some way. So everything makes sense. So how much did we lose that sense? That's important. And we should not see our body as if the end of our body is my skin. Now we are breathing the same air. You're exhaling and I'm inhaling your air, so yourself. Or food that we eat. So we take something out of there in us and it goes out again and so on. So actually it's just my inner body and my outer body. So everything is my body. Or I am everywhere. Try to think in that terms. It changes the whole thing. And it changes then the perception of sport as well. So questioning this paradigm, what we are living also, we should think of course, the negative parts of sport for all. Like, we should always do this kind of a job of a devil's advocate as well. What about mass culture? Instant sport, fitness and so on. Cosmetic sports, which are really elitist and exclusive in terms of economy background. Then we always criticize let's say on the right side it's the gymnast. Elite sport is bad and so on, look what they do with their kids and so on. But again, we have the other things as well. In sport for all. Who do we follow? You know, these are the Inca people. They have these original bikes, but now we all know Cannondale and so on. So you need to have a good bike if you want to belong to a biking community. Friendship, the value of sport again. And then you have the friendship in the sport for all. Swimming pool for all. And of course the tradition and identity. Well, those guys are playing basketball in the church. Sport for all it's called. And everywhere. As long as we keep our culture. Solidarity and so on. We are talking about integration and so on, so we try to help people get into fitness, but is this the way to do it? Eugenics is about racial hygiene and so on. Yes, it's true, it's happening in sport as well, in sport for all as well. The selection of good genes and elimination of human errors, or we call it natural errors. They are found in sport for all as well, but I think sport for all has a better perspective in these terms of including really everyone. Also, sport science. Sport for all was not really interested to be developed, of course, by sport science, except in the field of health recently. Otherwise, there is not really a social capital in sport for all. In terms of those Slovenian champions came to my place to be put under the research, under the physiology lab and so on. It's a good thing if you know these kind of people. It makes you proud. I'm a friend of him and so on. In sport for all, it's not important. So also sport physicians and psychologists should ask themselves, do they really do their job? In the medicine, in the deontology of medicine, do not hurt is the principle. So when the sport physician gives the painkiller to the athlete, what's that? Or the psychologist, they help them do their job again and again and again, although they are aware that they were manipulated. Just an example, do not think that I'm, I would say, generalizing. But there are cases that young kids are manipulated with the rewards and so on. They don't really want to be into it. But since the parents invested so much money into it, then I need to motivate him and so on and so on. That is not by the psychologist's ethical code. But since the club pays for him, sorry, I need to do my job. Otherwise, someone else will. So these kind of things as well happen in sport for all. Then at the end, I just will jump towards the discrimination or anti-discrimination. One thing that I think is also very much a value of sport for all is to have a playground in each community, playground for kids. This is a meeting point. Today, these kind of things are lost, at least in Slovenia. There are just a couple of playgrounds around Ljubljana that the city is taking care of. The rest, that was before in socialist time, taken care of by the local communities that were in charge of, are gone. So now what's happening? Those playgrounds are ruined. No more these toboggan and stuff and so on. And the playground is the meeting point. The mothers go there, fathers go there to teach them, the kids, to do some sport and so on, to encourage them, to play with them, to spend time with them, so they meet others, neighbors and so on. Today, if you don't have such a meeting point in the neighborhood, the sense of the community is lost. And that is also one part I think Sport for All should grab onto it, because it has really a big social potential. Those are some kind of questions we can put thinking about discrimination into it. And of course we need to be kind of a self-critical as well. In Slovenia there are 30,000 Muslims and no mosques. They do their Ramadan in a sports hall, and it's not even a decent sports hall. And then you have on every hill there's a church. But they fight for the mosque 30 years and there is none yet. What is maybe most painful in discrimination? First of all, it's a law-breaking act if you discriminate people. But then it's the most painful is if you discriminate them by their physical conditions, physical appearance and so on. Why? Because you wake up with your body and you go to sleep with your body. The rest is history. When you fall asleep, either Croatian or Serbian, that doesn't really matter. But your body is always there. And if someone calls you an invalid, you're an ugly person, you look at your nose and so on, it's there. When you wake up, and it's there when you go to sleep. It's there when you are born and when you die. So this is again, the corporal identity is the one that sport addresses. And today, there are not many practices that addresses the body in a way the sport does. So again, this is the value of sport. This is for our colleagues who knows Serbo-Croatian, Serbian-Croatian, Slovenian. This is the open dialogue, yeah, you're talking about, and many declarations are being written, but nothing done in practice. So it's not a question of act or not to act, and not even when to act, but only how. My proposal is we need to think in terms of a social ecology, in terms of sustainability, but of course the question is what to sustain. Usually we sustain the existing powers and existing positions, and of course we should see the body and the physical activity as an activity where there is no distinction between mind and body. When we sit, we can regard our bodies as an object, but when we are physically active, there is only unity. We are physically active and we are with our minds in that physical activity. That is why sometimes we can talk about the flow in sport and so on, because we enjoy it, because we are at one. And that again is the internal value of sport. And the question for you, of course, how tough is your skin? So are we willing to kind of go beyond our masks, also the institutional masks? And are we able to find the internal value of sport, to articulate it, of sport for all, sorry, to articulate it and express it as a message of sport for all movement? I think we are doing a good progress in that, but there is still not a kind of a clear message there. And of course, is it possible in sport for all to have a clear message? Thank you.